The morning started like any other on the neutral world of Concordia. Ambassador Zara Chen sat in her office, drinking coffee and reading reports from across the galaxy. Outside her window, ships from dozens of different worlds landed and took off from the busy spaceport. This was how peace looked. Different species working together, trading, talking, solving problems with words instead of weapons. Then her assistant rushed into the room. His blue skin had turned pale, which meant he was very worried. "Ambassador Chen," he said, breathing hard, "you need to see the emergency broadcast from the Kythera homeworld. Something terrible has happened." Zara set down her coffee cup. The Kythera were known throughout the galaxy as peacekeepers. They had special mental powers that let them feel what others were feeling and read their thoughts. For thousands of years, they had helped solve conflicts between different species. If something was wrong with them, it would affect everyone. The broadcast showed Elder Saren Kai, the most respected Kythera leader. His tall, thin body looked tired. His large, dark eyes that could look into someone's soul, were filled with sadness. "My fellow beings of the galaxy," he began, "I must tell you about a change that has come to our people. A change we did not expect and do not fully understand." Zara leaned forward in her chair. "Some of our children have been born with new abilities," Saren Kai continued. "They can do more than feel emotions and hear thoughts. They can change them. They can alter memories. They can make others think and feel things that are not real." The elder paused. Even through the video screen, Zara could feel his pain. "This power has appeared in about 30% of our new generation. We are working day and night to understand why this has happened. We want to find ways to control it or remove it completely, but I must be honest with you. We do not yet know how." Zara felt her stomach drop. She had worked with the Kythera for 5 years. She knew they were good people. They used their mental gifts only to help others, never to harm. But this new power was different. This was dangerous. "We promise you," Saren Kai said, "that we will not use these new abilities to hurt anyone. We are already creating strict rules about how our young people must behave. We are looking for ways to block these powers completely. We ask for your patience and understanding as we work through this crisis." The broadcast ended. Zara sat in silence for a long moment. Then her communication device started ringing, and it did not stop. Over the next 3 hours, she received calls from ambassadors across the galaxy. Each one was more worried than the last. "This is exactly what we always feared about telepaths," said Ambassador Krex from the Valorian Empire. His voice was sharp with anger. "We should never have trusted them. Now they can control our minds." "The Crystalline Consortium demands immediate action," announced another caller. "These creatures are a threat to every free-thinking being in the galaxy." "But they said they would not use their powers to hurt anyone," Zara replied to each caller. "The Kythera have never broken their word. They have been our friends for centuries." "How would we know if they had?" asked Ambassador Krex. "If they can change memories, they could make us forget that they hurt us. They could be controlling us right now, and we would never realize it." That afternoon, Zara attended an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. The air buzzed with nervous energy and fear. Elder Saren Kai stood at the center podium, looking small and alone. Around him sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were all staring at him with suspicion. "Honored Council," he began, "my people come before you in humility. We know this change in our children has caused fear. We share that fear. We do not want these powers any more than you want us to have them." "Then remove them," demanded Chancellor Vex of the hegemony of Tal. "Use your science to take away these abilities. Make your people normal again." "We are trying," Saren Kai replied. "Our best scientists are working on it, but genetic changes like this are complex. It may take years to find a safe way to reverse them." "Years?" shouted someone from the back. "You expect us to live in fear for years?" "We have already created the strongest laws possible," Serenkai said. "Any Kithara who uses these new powers without permission will be exiled from our society forever. We have built mental shields that make it much harder to use these abilities. We are doing everything we can. Everything except the one thing that would actually work," said Chancellor Vex coldly. "What do you mean?" asked Serenkai. "Remove yourselves from civilized society, all of you. Until you can guarantee that none of your people have these dangerous powers, you have no place among us." A shocked silence filled the hall. Zara felt her heart racing. "You cannot be serious," she said, standing up. "The Kithara have been our allies for thousands of years. They have helped end wars, prevented conflicts, and brought peace to countless worlds. You want to punish an entire species for the actions they might take, not actions they have taken?" "The human ambassador makes our point for us," said Ambassador Krex. "She says, actions they might take. Yes, exactly. We cannot wait to see what they might do. We must protect ourselves now." Elder Serenkai's shoulders slumped. "If that is what you require, we will accept isolation until we can solve this problem. But please, remember who we have been. Remember the good we have done." "Good you have done," said Chancellor Vex. "Or good you have made us think you have done. How can we trust any of our memories of you now?" As Zara looked around the hall, she saw fear in every face. Fear had replaced reason. These beings had decided that the possibility of harm was the same as actual harm. They had decided that all Kithara were guilty of crimes they had not committed. The vote was called. When it was over, Zara sat in stunned silence. The Kithara, all of them, would be expelled from council space. They would become refugees in their own galaxy, unwanted and homeless. Elder Serenkai stood quietly as the judgment was read. Then he looked directly at Zara. In his ancient eyes, she saw not anger, but a terrible sadness. "Thank you," he said softly, "for speaking for us when others would not." As he walked out of the great hall for the last time, Zara wondered if she was watching the death of justice itself. The exile began 3 days later. Zara stood on the observation deck of Concordia Station, watching the heartbreaking scene below. Massive Kithara ships filled the space around their home world like a gray cloud. Each ship was packed with families who had been given only hours to pack their belongings and leave the only home they had ever known. Children pressed their faces against the ship windows, looking back at the green and blue planet they would never see again. Parents tried to comfort them while their own tears fell silently. "I cannot believe we are doing this," said Dr. Marcus Webb, standing beside Zara. He was the human medical officer assigned to Concordia Station. His voice was thick with emotion. "Neither can I," Zara whispered. On the planet's surface, Galactic Council security forces were making sure every Kithara left. They moved through cities that had stood for thousands of years, forcing out beings who had lived there all their lives. Kithara who had been doctors, teachers, artists, and scientists were treated like criminals. Zara watched an old Kithara woman being helped onto a transport ship. She had been a judge on the planetary court for 50 years. Now she was being expelled because of what other people might do with abilities she did not even have. The refugee fleet was growing larger by the hour. Over 12 million Kithara lived on their homeworld. All of them had to leave. Their entire civilization was being scattered to space. Elder Serenkai appeared on the station's communication screen. He was speaking from his ship, which would lead the refugee fleet. "My people," he said calmly, "we go now into the unknown. We do not know where we will find welcome, but we will find it together. We carry with us the wisdom of our ancestors and the hope of our children. We will survive this. But surviving would not be easy." Zara had spent the last 3 days trying to find places willing to take Kithera refugees. Most worlds had already announced they would not allow any Kithera ships to land. Others said they might accept a few hundred people, but certainly not thousands. The fear was spreading faster than any disease. Worlds that had never even met a Kithera were closing their borders. Trade stations were refusing to sell supplies to Kithera ships. Some places were even threatening to shoot at any Kithera vessel that came too close. "Where will they go?" asked Dr. Webb. "I do not know," Zara admitted. "Space is big, but most of it is empty. They need food, water, and fuel. They need safe places to land and repair their ships. They need—" An alarm started ringing. Emergency broadcasts were coming in from across the galaxy. Zara quickly turned on the communication system. "This is Captain Torres of the merchant vessel Bright Star," a panicked voice said. "We are under attack by pirates near the Outer Rim. They are targeting the Kithera refugee ships. The refugees have no weapons to defend themselves. Repeat, the Kithera ships are defenseless." More reports came in over the next hour. Pirates and criminal gangs were hunting the refugee fleet like wolves hunting sheep. They knew the Kithera ships were full of valuable goods, but had no military protection. "The fleet is changing course," reported Dr. Webb, watching the tracking screens. "They are moving toward the Beta sector." Zara checked her star maps. "That is mostly empty space. A few asteroid mining stations. Some uninhabited planets. They are trying to avoid the major trade routes where pirates might find them." But avoiding pirates meant avoiding help too. The refugee fleet was moving farther away from any place that might offer aid. They were being pushed to the edges of civilized space, where no one could or would help them. A week later, things got worse. The Kithera fleet stopped at Mining Station Alpha 7 to buy supplies. It was a rough place, but it was one of the few stations that had not officially banned Kithera ships. However, when the refugees arrived, they found that prices for food and fuel had increased by 300%. "This is robbery," protested Kithera Captain Vel Nara to the station manager. "This is business," the manager replied with an evil smile. "You want supplies? You pay my price. You do not like it. You can leave." The Kithera had no choice. They paid the criminal prices because their children needed to eat. News reports showed what happened next. Anti-Kithera protesters had gathered at the station. They threw rocks at Kithera families walking to buy food. They shouted terrible things about telepaths and mind control. Station security did nothing to stop them. One video showed a young Kithera child, maybe 8 years old, asking her mother why the people were so angry with them. The mother had no answer. That night, someone set fire to one of the smaller Kithera ships while it was docked. 3 families lost everything they owned. No one was arrested for the crime. "We cannot stay here," Elder Serenkai announced. "We will find another way." But there was no other way. System after system turned them away. The refugees were running out of food and fuel. Their ships were breaking down from constant travel with no safe place to land for repairs. Some of the younger Kithera began talking about using their new mental abilities to force others to help them. The desperation was growing stronger each day. "No," Elder Serenkai said firmly when this idea was suggested. "We will not become the monsters they think we are. We will find help through honest means, or we will find no help at all." Zara watched all of this from Concordia Station, feeling helpless. She sent report after report to her government on Earth, begging them to offer aid to the refugees. But Earth was far away, and humans were still new members of the galactic community. They had little influence with other species. The refugee fleet was now 2 months into their journey to nowhere. They had visited 17 different systems, and all had turned them away. Their ships were falling apart. People were getting sick. Some of the oldest Kithera were dying from the stress and poor conditions. Elder Serenkai sent a message to the Galactic Council, asking for basic humanitarian aid. He was not asking to return to their homeworld. He was just asking for food and medicine for his people. The council voted on the request. The answer was no. Any aid to the Kythera refugees, announced Chancellor Vex, might be seen as support for their presence in council space. We cannot send that message. That night, Zara sat alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12 million innocent beings were wandering through space, unwanted and alone. They were guilty of nothing except being born into the wrong species at the wrong time. She thought about the young Kythera child who had asked why people were angry with them. She thought about the old judge who had spent her life bringing justice to others. She thought about all the families sleeping in cramped ship corridors because they had nowhere else to go. The galaxy had turned its back on them. Fear had won over compassion. Justice had been replaced by prejudice. Zara made a decision. Tomorrow, she would send a personal message to Earth. Not an official report, but a plea from her heart. Maybe, just maybe, humanity would choose to be different from the rest of the galaxy. Maybe humans would choose to do the right thing, even when it was hard. Zara's message reached Earth 3 days later. She had sent it directly to President Maria Santos, along with video recordings of the refugee crisis. She did not know if the president would even read her message, but she had to try. The response came faster than she expected. President Santos appeared on Zara's personal communication screen just 8 hours after receiving the message. Her dark eyes were filled with determination. "Ambassador Chen," she said, "I have read your report and watched the videos. I have also called an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. We need to discuss the situation immediately." "Thank you, Madam President," Zara said. "But I should warn you, helping the Kythera will make us very unpopular with the other species. They might punish us for it." "Let me worry about that," President Santos replied. "Can you arrange a direct communication link with Elder Seren Kai? I want to speak with him personally." 2 hours later, Zara sat in her office watching something she had not expected to see. President Santos was talking directly to Elder Seren Kai via long-range communication. The Elder's ship was still moving through empty space, but he had agreed to stop long enough for this conversation. "Elder Seren Kai," President Santos said, "my name is Maria Santos. I am the President of the United Earth Government. I have seen what has happened to your people, and I am deeply sorry." The Kythera leader looked surprised. It had been weeks since anyone in power had spoken to him with respect. "Thank you, President Santos. Your words are kind, but I do not think there is anything you can do to help us. The galaxy has made its decision about my people." "The galaxy has made its decision," President Santos agreed, "but humanity has not made ours yet. I want to offer your people sanctuary on human worlds, all of your people for as long as you need it." Seren Kai sat in shocked silence for a long moment. "President Santos, I do not think you understand. There are over 12 million of us. We have abilities that frighten other species. Taking us in would make humanity many enemies." "Elder, I do not think you understand," President Santos replied with a smile. "We humans have a saying. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Your people are exactly who we want to help." The United Earth Assembly met that evening. Zara watched the session live from her office. Representatives from all human colonies and Earth itself gathered to debate the issue. "This is dangerous," argued Representative Williams from the Mars colony. "We have worked hard to build good relationships with other species. Why should we risk everything for aliens we barely know?" "Because it is the right thing to do," replied Representative Chen from Earth. "These people have done nothing wrong. They are refugees who need help. If we turn our backs on them, what does that say about who we are?" "It says we are smart," Representative Williams shot back. "The other species expelled the Kythera for good reasons. These telepaths could control our minds, change our memories. How do we know they will not use us?" Representative Johnson from Europa Colony stood up. I have read all of Ambassador Chen's reports about the Kythera. In thousands of years, they have never once used their abilities to harm others. They have only used them to bring peace. The new abilities some of their children have are troubling, yes, but that is not the fault of the whole species. Besides, added Representative Okafor from the African Union, we humans know something about being judged unfairly. We have fought wars based on skin color, religion, and nationality. We have made terrible mistakes when fear overcame wisdom. Do we want to be like the species that are doing this to the Kythera now? The debate went on for 6 hours. In the end, the vote was closer than Zara had hoped, but clear enough. 847 votes in favor of offering sanctuary, 312 against, and 94 abstentions. President Santos addressed the assembly after the vote. "We are about to make some powerful enemies," she said. "Other species will call us naive, dangerous, or worse. They will threaten us with trade sanctions and isolation. Some of you may lose money because of this decision, but I believe we are choosing to be the kind of people we want to be, not the kind of people fear would make us." The next morning, Admiral Jackson Hayes received orders to take a rescue fleet to find the Kythera refugees. His fleet included 50 military ships, 100 transport vessels, and 30 medical ships. It was the largest humanitarian mission in human history. "Admiral," President Santos told him before he left, "these people have been hurt enough. I want them to feel welcome from the moment they see our ships. Make sure your crew understands. We are not just rescuing refugees. We are welcoming new neighbors." When the human fleet found the Kythera refugees 2 weeks later, the aliens were in bad shape. Their ships were barely working. Many people were sick. They had been drifting through an empty system for days, trying to repair their engines with parts that did not fit. Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel to Elder Serenkai's ship. "Elder Serenkai, this is Admiral Jackson Hayes of the United Earth Fleet. We are here to offer you and your people safe passage to human colonies. You are all welcome to make new homes with us." The silence that followed lasted for almost a minute. When Elder Serenkai finally responded, his voice was shaking. "Admiral Hayes, are you certain? We are many, and we bring problems with us. Your people could suffer because of us." "Elder," Admiral Hayes replied, "my president has a message for you. She says that strength comes from helping others, not from turning them away. We want to help." That afternoon, human ships began moving alongside Kythera vessels. Human engineers worked to repair broken engines. Human doctors treated sick refugees. Human supply ships shared food, water, and medicine. Captain Sarah Kim was one of the first humans to board a Kythera ship. She later described what she found. "They were living in terrible conditions," she reported. "Families crowded into spaces meant for storage, children who had not had a proper meal in weeks. But what struck me most was their dignity. Despite everything they had suffered, they still tried to help each other. They still showed kindness to strangers." News of humanity's rescue mission spread quickly across the galaxy. The reaction was swift and angry. The Valorian Empire immediately recalled their ambassador from Earth. "Humanity has shown they cannot be trusted," announced Emperor Krex. "They are harboring dangerous telepaths who threaten galactic security." The Crystalline Consortium canceled all trade agreements with human colonies. "We will not do business with species that support mind controllers," their leader declared. Several other species joined together to condemn humanity's actions. They threatened to ban human ships from their territory. Some even suggested that humans might be under Kythera mental control already. On Earth, some people began to worry. Stock markets dropped as trade deals collapsed. Colonies that depended on alien technology found themselves cut off from supplies. But President Santos did not change her mind. "We knew this would be hard," she told the Earth Assembly. "We knew others would not understand, but look at what we have gained. 12 million new citizens who bring knowledge, skills, and gratitude. We have shown the galaxy that humans stand for something more than profit and fear." Admiral Hayes's fleet began the journey back to human space. The trip would take 3 months, but for the first time in their exile, the Kythera refugees had hope. Elder Seren Kai sent a personal message to President Santos. "Your people have saved us when no one else would. We will never forget this kindness. We promise to earn the trust you have shown us." As the joint human Kythera fleet moved through space, other species watched nervously. Some wondered if humanity was making the biggest mistake in galactic history. Others wondered if humanity was about to show them what courage really looked like. 6 months after the rescue, Zara stood in the main square of New Haven Colony, watching human and Kythera children play together in the afternoon sun. The scene should have filled her with hope, but instead, she felt worried. The integration was not going as smoothly as everyone had hoped. New Haven was one of 12 human colonies that had volunteered to host Kythera refugees. The colonists had been excited at first. They had prepared homes, schools, and jobs for their new neighbors. But excitement had turned to nervousness as the reality of living with telepaths set in. "Dr. Rodriguez," Zara called to the xenopsychologist who was helping with the integration program. "How are things going today?" Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked tired. She had been working 18-hour days for months, trying to help both species understand each other. "Better than yesterday, worse than I hoped," she replied honestly. "We had another incident at the market this morning. Mrs. Patterson from the farming district accused a Kythera vendor of reading her thoughts to know how much money she had in her pocket." Was the accusation true? Of course not. The vendor, Calreth, does not even have telepathic abilities. He is one of the 70% of Kythera who are completely normal in that regard. But Mrs. Patterson saw his eyes change color when he was calculating her change, and she panicked. This was the problem they faced every day. Humans and Kythera looked different, acted different, and had different abilities. Fear and misunderstanding grew easily in such soil. "What about the consent accords?" Zara asked. "Are they helping?" The consent accords were rules that Elder Seren Kai and Dr. Rodriguez had created together. Any Kythera who wanted to use telepathic abilities around humans had to ask permission first. They had to wear special badges that showed what mental powers they had. Most importantly, any Kythera who broke these rules would be sent away from human colonies. "The accords are working," Dr. Rodriguez said, "but they only solve part of the problem. The real issue is that humans do not trust what they cannot understand. And Kythera do not understand why humans are so afraid of mental contact when it feels natural to them." The fear was not just on New Haven. Reports came in daily from other colonies hosting Kythera refugees. On Frontier Station, human workers had gone on strike, demanding that Kythera be banned from their jobs. On the agricultural world of Green Valley, some farmers claimed that Kythera were using mind control to make crops grow better, which was somehow cheating. But the biggest problems came from outside the colonies. The Galactic Council had not just condemned humanity's decision to help the Kythera. They had acted on that condemnation. Trade sanctions had cut off 60% of human commerce. 3 major shipping companies had canceled contracts with human worlds. Colonies that had depended on imported technology were struggling to keep basic systems working. On Earth, President Santos faced growing pressure from her own people. "Madam President," said Economic Minister Thompson during a cabinet meeting that Zara watched via secure communication, "we have lost 8 trillion credits in trade revenue. Unemployment on the outer colonies has reached 15%. People are starting to ask if helping the Kythera was worth making enemies of the entire galaxy." "And what is your answer to that question?" President Santos asked calmly. "I think we need to find a middle path. Minister Thompson replied. Maybe we can keep some of the Kithera, but send others to find homes elsewhere. Show the galaxy that we are willing to compromise. You want me to break up families? The president asked. Send away people who have done nothing wrong, just to make our former friends happy? I want you to think about the greater good, Minister Thompson said. We are talking about the survival of human civilization as a galactic power. President Santos was quiet for a long moment. Minister, I have been thinking about survival, but I wonder if a civilization that abandons innocent people to save money is worth surviving. The pressure was not just economic. Military tensions were rising too. Admiral Hayes reported that Valorian Empire ships had started following human vessels near the border zones. They claimed they were looking for telepathic contamination, but everyone knew they were looking for an excuse to start a fight. The situation got worse when the hegemony of Tal declared a quarantine zone around human space. Any ship traveling from human colonies to other systems would be stopped and searched for mind control devices. They are treating us like we have a disease, Admiral Hayes reported to President Santos. Our merchant ships are being delayed for days while they conduct these fake inspections. Some of our people have been arrested on made-up charges. Then came the terrorist attack. It happened on New Geneva, one of the newest human colonies. A bomb exploded in the central spaceport just as a transport ship full of Kithera families was landing. 12 people died, 6 humans and 6 Kithera. 40 others were injured. Within hours, news reports across the galaxy were blaming the attack on Kithera infiltrators. The reports claimed that telepathic terrorists had mind-controlled human citizens into building and planting the bomb. This proves what we have been saying all along, announced Chancellor Vex on a galaxy-wide broadcast. The Kithera cannot be trusted. They turn their hosts against their own people. Humanity is either complicit in this attack or they have become victims of mental manipulation themselves. Elder Saren Kai was heartbroken when he heard the news. This is exactly what we feared would happen, he told Zara during an emergency meeting. Our presence is bringing violence to your people. The investigation has not even started yet, Zara replied. We do not know who was responsible for this attack. But the investigation, when it was completed 2 weeks later, revealed something shocking. The bomb had been built and planted by members of the Human Purity Movement, a terrorist group that wanted all aliens removed from human space. They had planned the attack to make it look like Kithera were responsible. The real story barely made news outside human space. Most of the galaxy had already decided who was to blame, and facts were not going to change their minds. President Santos called another emergency session of the Earth Assembly. This time, the mood was very different from 6 months earlier. Maybe we made a mistake, said Representative Williams, who had opposed helping the Kithera from the beginning. Maybe we should have listened to the other species. Look what has happened to us. What has happened to us, replied Representative Johnson, is that we have learned who our real friends are. The species that are punishing us for showing mercy were never our true allies. That is easy to say when your colony is not losing jobs, Representative Williams shot back. When your people are not being harassed at every spaceport in the galaxy. When your children are not asking why everyone hates them now. The debate was harder this time. The vote was closer. 623 in favor of continuing to support the Kithera, 501 against, and 129 abstentions. President Santos won, but barely. That night, Zara sat in her quarters on Concordia Station, reading reports from across human space. The news was not good. Protests were growing on several colonies. Some humans were demanding that the Kithera refugees be sent away. Others were protesting to keep them. On the positive side, she had also received reports of remarkable cooperation. Human and Kithera doctors were working together to develop new medical treatments. Kithera telepaths were helping human psychologists understand mental illness better. Some of the young Kithra with the feared dangerous abilities were using them to help humans overcome traumatic memories, always with permission and under strict supervision. But progress was slow, and the pressure from outside was growing stronger every day. Dr. Rodriguez sent her a personal message that evening. Integration is possible, but it will take time. The question is whether we will have enough time before something forces us apart. Zara fell asleep that night wondering the same thing. Humanity had chosen to do the right thing, but right choices were not always easy ones. The galaxy was testing human resolve, and she was not sure how much more pressure they could take. In space, beyond the view of any telescope, something ancient was stirring. Something that had been sleeping for 1,000 years was beginning to wake up. Soon, the galaxy would face a threat that would make their arguments about telepaths seem very small. But nobody knew that yet. The first ships to disappear were mining vessels at the edge of Valorian space. They simply vanished without sending any emergency signals. The Valorian Empire blamed pirates, then equipment failures, then anything except the truth they did not want to face. When entire colonies started going silent, the galaxy could no longer ignore what was happening. Zara was in a meeting with President Santos when Admiral Hayes burst into the room without being announced. His face was white with fear. "Madam President," he said, breathing hard, "you need to see this immediately." The recording came from a probe that had been sent to investigate the missing colonies. What it found was worse than anyone had imagined. Where the colony of Meridian Prime had once stood, there was nothing but empty space and floating debris. The planet itself was gone, not destroyed, but consumed. Something had eaten it completely, leaving only asteroid fragments and the hollow metal shells of buildings floating in the void. "How many people lived on Meridian Prime?" President Santos asked quietly. 4 million, Admiral Hayes replied. "All gone." The probe had also detected something else. Ships, thousands of them, moving through space like a dark cloud. They were heading toward the center of the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Within hours, emergency broadcasts were going out across all inhabited systems. The Devourers had returned. Zara had read about them in history classes, but like most people, she had thought they were just legends. The stories said that 1,000 years ago, a species of machines had swept across the galaxy, eating entire worlds to fuel their expansion. The combined fleets of a dozen empires had barely managed to stop them, and even then only by driving them into hibernation at the galaxy's edge. Now they were awake and hungry. Elder Serenkai contacted Zara 3 days after the first reports came in. His image on the communication screen looked tired and sad. "Ambassador Chen," he said, "we have received a message from the Galactic Council. They want our help." Zara felt her stomach twist. "What kind of help?" "The kind only we can provide," the elder replied. "The Devourers are not just machines. They are a collective mind. Millions of individual units controlled by a single intelligence. Physical weapons cannot hurt that mind directly, but telepathic attacks can. And they want the Kithara to fight them." "Yes. The same people who exiled us for having dangerous mental abilities now want us to use those abilities to save them." Zara could not hide her anger. "What did you tell them?" "I told them I would discuss it with my people," Serenkai said. "But Ambassador, many of my people do not want to help. They say the galaxy made its choice when it expelled us. Why should we risk our lives for species that hate us?" That evening, Zara attended an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council via long-range communication. The great hall that had once been filled with proud, confident leaders now looked like a gathering of frightened children. Chancellor Vex, who had led the campaign to expel the Kithara, was now begging for their help. "The Devourer fleet is moving faster than we expected," he announced. Our military analysts believe they will reach the core worlds within 6 months. We need the Kythera telepaths, especially those with the memory alteration abilities, to join our defense forces immediately. And in return? Asked Elder Serenkai, who was attending the meeting from his ship near human space. In return, we will consider restoring Kythera citizenship rights after the crisis is over, Chancellor Vex replied. You will consider it? Serenkai's voice was calm, but Zara could hear the iron beneath it. You want us to risk our lives on the possibility that you might treat us fairly afterward? You do not understand, Chancellor Vex said desperately. If the Devourers are not stopped, there will be no afterward. Every living being in the galaxy will be consumed. Your people will die along with everyone else. Elder Serenkai was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Give us 3 days to decide. The communication ended, leaving the council members in shocked silence. Over the next 3 days, the Devourer fleet consumed 4 more star systems. The death toll was climbing toward 50 million beings. Panic was spreading across the galaxy as refugees fled toward the inner worlds. On the 3rd day, Elder Serenkai called President Santos directly. President Santos, he said, my people have made their decision. We will help fight the Devourers, but not for the Galactic Council. We will fight alongside humanity, as allies and friends. Elder, President Santos replied, you know that humanity alone cannot provide the ships and resources needed for this battle. We will need to work with the other species, even if they have not treated you fairly. We understand. But we want it clear that we fight as partners with humanity, not as servants of the Council. Will you accept us as equals in this battle? President Santos smiled. Elder, we accepted you as equals the day we offered you sanctuary. That has not changed. The combined human Kythera fleet that assembled over the next month was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships provided firepower and shields, while Kythera telepaths prepared for the mental battle against the Devourer collective mind. Dr. Rodriguez had been working around the clock to develop new techniques that would allow human and Kythera minds to work together. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, some of the youngest Kythera, those with the feared memory alteration abilities. They can create temporary mental links with human pilots, Dr. Rodriguez explained to Admiral Hayes. The human provides courage, determination, and tactical thinking. The Kythera provides telepathic power and the ability to fight on a mental level. Together, they are stronger than either could be alone. The first test was with Captain Sarah Kim, who had been one of the first humans to board a Kythera refugee ship months earlier. She volunteered to link her mind with Jethmar, a young Kythera who had the ability to alter memories. It felt like flying with a friend sitting beside me, Captain Kim reported after the test. I could feel his thoughts supporting mine, making me faster and more aware. But I never felt like he was controlling me. We were working together. When the Devourer fleet finally reached the main defense line, they found the combined forces of the galaxy waiting for them. But the heart of the resistance was the human Kythera alliance. The battle lasted 3 days. Traditional weapons barely slowed the Devourer ships, but the telepathic attack struck directly at their collective mind. Human pilots, their minds linked with Kythera telepaths, flew impossible missions deep into the enemy fleet. The turning point came when Elder Serenkai himself joined the mental assault. Leading a group of the most powerful Kythera telepaths, he struck directly at the core intelligence controlling the Devourer fleet. We cannot destroy it, he reported during the battle, but we can confuse it, make it forget its purpose temporarily. The memory alteration abilities our children have, the ones everyone feared, they are the key to victory. Young Kythera, who had been outcasts among outcasts, suddenly became the galaxy's greatest hope. Working with human partners, they reached into the Devourer collective mind and changed its memories, made it forget how to coordinate its attacks, even made some units forget they were supposed to be destroying organic life. Captain Kim and Jethmar led the final assault on the Devourer command ship. Their joined minds punched through the machine defenses and planted a simple but devastating suggestion in the collective consciousness: sleep. The Devourer fleet stopped moving. Millions of machines shut down at once and began drifting harmlessly through space. The galaxy was saved. In the weeks that followed, as the galaxy counted its dead and began to rebuild, the truth became impossible to ignore. The species that everyone had feared and expelled had been the ones to save them all. The dangerous abilities that had caused such panic were the only weapons that could stop the Devourers. The Galactic Council called another emergency session. This time, Chancellor Vex stood before Elder Serenkai and did something that had never happened in Council history. He formally apologized. "We were wrong," he said simply. "We let fear guide us instead of wisdom. We owe our survival to the people we cast out. And to our human allies," Elder Serenkai replied, "who stood by us when no one else would." The Council voted unanimously to restore full citizenship rights to all Kithara. They offered reparations for the suffering caused during the exile. They even offered to make Elder Serenkai the next Chancellor of the Council. But many Kithara chose to remain in human space. They had found more than sanctuary among humans. They had found true friends. President Santos was awarded the Galactic Peace Prize, but she donated it to the families of those who had died fighting the Devourers. The real heroes, she said in her acceptance speech, were the beings who chose to save a galaxy that had rejected them. And the real victory was not defeating the Devourers. It was learning that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Zara attended the ceremony on Concordia Station, which had become a symbol of cooperation between species. Looking out at the mixed crowd of humans, Kithara, and other aliens working together, she thought about how much had changed. The galaxy had learned that compassion was not weakness, that accepting others was not naive, that sometimes the people you fear are the ones you need the most. Standing beside her, Elder Serenkai watched human and Kithara children playing together in the station's main plaza. "Your people saved us twice," he told Zara. "First from exile, then from despair. How do we repay such a debt?" Zara smiled. "By building the kind of galaxy where no one has to repay kindness. Where helping others is just what people do." As the sun set over Concordia Station, the galaxy began its journey toward becoming that kind of place. It would take time, and there would be more challenges ahead. But they had learned something important, that when good people stand together, there is no enemy they cannot face, no problem they cannot solve, and no one who has to face the darkness alone.